Hi, this is Mike,
And this is Fran.
and this is Mike and Fran Unrehearsed, episode 9. Hey guys, so glad you could join us today, Wednesday at noon, for Mike and Fran Unrehearsed on 216 The Net. That's real life internet radio at 216thenet.com. And as always, send in your questions to 216thenet at gmail.com. All right. So, hey guys, a couple things before we get started. I have good news for you. We don't have any corrections or clarifications to make from last week. Isn't that right, Mom?
Yes,
So it must be we're getting on the ball now, and when Lisa and Linda come over, we're doing a pretty good job, I guess, huh?
we hope so.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So first off, I wanted to say a couple things here. When I'm not doing a radio show, ha ha ha, I'm a realtor with Keller Williams, and I could help you sell your home or buy a new home or make a move or do whatever you want to do with your real estate needs. I'm at 847-903-8061, and if I can't help you, I'll find an expert in your area that can. So remember me, Mike, from Mike and Fran, for all your real estate needs. That's 847-903-8061. 847-903-8061. Thank you so much. And I do want to mention my friend Joe from Joe's Plumbing. And guess what he told me this week? He does free estimates. How about that? So anytime you have anything that needs a look at, that needs a plumber's expertise, give Joe a call. You got to go? Call Joe. Call Joe at 773-732-8153. That's Joe's Plumbing at 773-732-8153. When you got to go, call Joe. Thank you so much. All right. All right, friends. So here's our first question of the day. We're about to give, oh, I'm sorry. We're about to be first time parents. We don't know if it'll be a boy or a girl. We're waiting until the birth. Well, that's pretty cool, isn't it? A lot of people do the other thing and, kind of know what it is, but that's pretty cool. All right. So what is the absolute worst name you could think of for a boy or a girl? A name you would never give a child. My husband and I are in a hot debate over a few family names. That's an interesting question. Well, I have to say there are a few names that I probably wouldn't have named my kids. If I had any kids, I don't. But I do know a couple things about our name. We were actually named Latona when our great grandparents came over
From Italy.
from to Ellis Island, right?
Well, they came to Ellis Island,
Yeah,
but they were living in America and they changed their name.
But I know the way I heard it was when they came over on the boat, they were Latonas, Latona, and then once they hit Ellis Island, the last letter A changed to an E, and now they were allowed Latone. So some people think it's L-A capital T-O-N-E because you don't say the last vowel. Typically, in an Italian name, you pronounce the last vowel of the name, and that kind of makes it Italian. But Mom's part French anyway, so I guess I'm okay with that. But I'll say Latone, and then I'll say it was Latona, and we kind of lost track with our relatives out there. One of these days, I would love to just show up at a house with the Latona name and go, "Hello, I'm your long-lost relative from the U.S." See how that goes. I've done that in California at Thousand Oaks, remember? The husband was like, "How do we know this guy again?" You remember? It was kind of weird, but I did it. It's like a second cousin kind of thing. So if you guys want to have fun, go find your second cousins and go knock on their door and go, "Hey, how you doing? Who are you?" I'm your relative. What do you mean? Who am I? And then see how that goes. So there are a couple names that I wanted to mention, like let's say I called my kid Richard, and people called him Dick. I'm not crazy about that name, Dick, unless it was like Dick Van Dyke the second or something like that, or Dick Van Patten, or there's some of these names that you already know. I just don't like my kid to be called Dick for some reason. I don't know why I don't want him to be called Dick, but I think you all know. Anyway, I did have a chance to hang out with my friend's uncle, Diane's uncle, Uncle Hillard. Uncle Hillard is a really, really really gentle, elderly man, great guy, fantastic to be around, and he's in great health. And this December, he will be 95. Mom will be 94 in January, so they're about a year apart. We've been over there before and to his facility. He lives in the Villa St. Benedict Senior Living facility out there in, I guess it's, yeah, it was actually in Lisle, Illinois. Villa St. Benedict Senior Living in the Benedictine tradition. Very nice area to live. Very nice folks. So Uncle Hillard came up with a name when I told him what one of our questions was. And he said he knew a woman there, are you ready? Named Pukey Zimmerman. Pukey. Pucky. How about that for a name? Hey, Pukey, get over here, will you? Oh my God, that must have been a terrible name to live with her whole life. But maybe, where she's from, they say Pucky or Pukey doesn't mean what it means here. But that's okay. But, names like Kunagunda, Hepzibah, Imogene, Broomhilda. These are all sort of ethnic names, and they're normal from where they come from, so I wouldn't worry about those too much. If you're German, you're German. You're going to have a German name. I think
went
it's great.
to high school, with a girl named Imogene. Brunhilde is an odd. Hildegard, Helga, those ordinary names you can.
Oh, and by the way, we were able to talk to Ron at the business center of Villa St. Benedict, and guess what? Most of those residents have computers in their rooms, and they are going to be listening to our show. That's right. So our show is going to be in their next newsletter. So I'm really thrilled about that. We might even do like a live show there where we can kind of do like a broadcast of the show. After we talk about a particular topic, we could pause it and have a discussion in the room and see what those folks think. Because you know what I'm hearing from people is that they hear the show and it kind of makes their wheels turn and think about the questions that we're answering for themselves and how they would answer those questions. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's enough with me. Mom, tell me what names you think would be appropriate for a boy or girl. Which ones do you really dislike?
Well, it is so much a choice of the persons involved, but also they ask what I didn't like. Well, I like any name, and a name should be God's. It could be a lot from the family.
Okay, Mom, so the question is basically, what would be a name that you would never give a child?
Well, I can't say really never, but there are some names I do not like as well as others. A name I have not liked really is Elmer. I don't like a Maud or a Myrtle, but these might be relatives in your family, which you love dearly, and you would use the name.
Well, I mean, they're not saying that somebody can't be named that and you can't use the name. They're just saying they're having a baby. I don't know if it's their first baby or not. Yeah, it is. First-time parents. First-time parents are thinking of names, and they're having a discussion on what would be the worst name that we could call our child.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a name you like, or somebody from a name in the family. Usually, most of us ended up with a middle name or some name from somebody in the family.
Well, like in our family, it's for the males. It's James Michael, Michael James, James Michael. So
Well,
my
that's
dad,
3 generations.
My dad
yeah.
was James Michael. His dad was Michael James, and I'm Michael James. In fact, when I was born, he was very ill, and he died shortly after that. But I think that was the sort of pattern. So if I ever did have a kid, I guess I'd have to name him James Michael. And even though Grandpa was called Michael, they called him Mickey. But yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I like a lot of odd names. In fact, when I was growing up, I always said, when I have twins, I'll name them Quince and Quentin. And everybody went, oh my God, am I glad. I hope you never have twins. I went through the stage of liking all the odd names. And when I was naming some of my children, I would pick an odd name, like an Italian sounding one of my, because Jim would say, don't use that. That's not a good word.
Well, weren't you going to name one of the boys Tyrone, because it would have been.
No, that's
it would have
a
been.
joke.
It would have been Tyrone Latone.
No, that
How
was
about
a
that?
joke name.
That would have been kind of
No,
cool.
everybody's got a joke name. We were
Tyrone.
Tyrone, Latone, and Dugo's, I said next door, Hugo, Dugo. We had made up sort of names.
So is there like a worst name on the list that you
No.
would never name a child?
I don't
really?
think you should have a name that is very close to a body part or something
Yeah.
that may be misconstrued easily.
Well, that makes sense because the kid's going to
and-
be teased their whole life,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you don't want to have to deal with that every day.
Well, that's something a teacher would deal with.
Yeah.
I always ask a parent what they wanted their child to be called, because a lot of them didn't want Eddie or Ed. They wanted Edward. It depended what the parents wanted.
Right.
But
right.
it's kind of hard sometimes. In first grade, I had a little girl once called Destiny. And every time I looked at that miniature little child there, Destiny, I thought of the Dynasty that was on television then.
Right,
Thing.
right.
A Dynasty? Destiny? But the name belongs to the person. What you want, it means to you. And there's always a chance when people grow up later, they can change it if they hate it.
Okay, so now-
or they get nicknames.
So now that you're saying that, let me ask you something else. What do you think about women hyphenating their name with their maiden name? What do
Oh,
you think about that?
absolutely. I wish I would have done it.
Oh, really?
I wish I would have been Bab Latona. Or I
Bab
don't-
Latone is what
Yeah,
it would have
yeah.
been, Mom.
Yeah.
Bab Latone.
Bab.
Yeah.
B-A-
Francis Bab / or hyphen Latone.
Yes, I would like that very much.
Yeah. Well,
I think sometimes they put it Latona or Latone and Bab after. It all depends. Sometimes it's after, sometimes it's before. But it's hyphenated.
I think it's actually after, isn't it? The hyphen?
I'm not
The
quite sure.
hyphenated maiden
Yeah.
name, I think, is after.
Yeah.
So it would be Fran Latone
Yeah.
hyphen Bab? I don't know. It doesn't sound right.
I'm not sure.
I think you're fine with Fran Latone.
But I would have liked to have had my maiden name included. I was very proud of my family and who I was.
Okay, Mom, what about people that like maybe want to change their names?
Well, we have in our family, the Kabuchi family, changed their name to Couch because it was difficult to spell and sound. Now, I would have never wanted to do that. I figure people should learn how to pronounce and spell their name, be proud of it.
Well, they probably thought they're in America and Americans can't say Kavuchi or can't spell it right. Make it a lot easier and make it couch.
Well, it was an odd spelling, Cobucci, and most people didn't know how to pronounce it.
That's not that odd to me.
But I also, when I was talking to Michael about nicknames, I had a fellow student in grade school who was Rusty Gates. And Michael said, they called him Rusty? I said, he had red hair. That was his nickname. And his real name was Wesley.
Wesley?
Wesley, yes.
Wesley Gates?
Yes.
And
But they called him Rusty Gates. It went together.
Oh, that makes sense.
So a lot of people get interesting nicknames that way.
Right.
But I'm sure whatever name you come up with, as long as you both agree, will be great for a lovely child. Congrats.
Congratulations. All right, Mom, so here's another question. Have you ever been jealous of anybody in your family?
Oh, terribly jealous. When I was just a little kid, little over 2, and my sister was born, I was so dreadfully jealous that she got
This was Donna?
my sister Donna.
There's 2 years
Yes.
between you, right? No. Yeah, two. Okay. I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was so dreadfully jealous because she got a bath and got cleaned up first in the morning. And I was taken care of secondly, so to speak. So when we lived in even a smaller house than our double garage, and I was the only child and Donna was the baby, we lived in a little gunsmoke house again, very tiny little living room, very tiny little bedroom, with no electricity outside John, no water, and we had a pump out in front. So one day when in the morning early, when they were taking care of my sister, I ran out, got a little box, put it up, stood on it, pumped the pump at 2.5 or so, and filled a part of a crock full of water, and bent over and squeezed my head in that crock. Well, they heard inside the house, help, help, cries, and they couldn't figure out, and they said, oh my gosh, she's down at the river, because we were living right beside the Willamette River.
Right.
And they ran out, and there I am in a short-legged ostrich style with my head stuck in the crock.
So the pot was still on the ground
Yep,
the whole
yep,
time?
yep.
So you
Well, I
couldn't-
wasn't carrying it around.
Was there a lot of water in it?
Yes, quite a bit. So now they had to decide what to do.
Oh, boy.
First of all, they tried pulling my head, and one held the crock, and it wasn't coming out because of my ears. Secondly, they couldn't turn it upside down because my aunt said, oh my God, she will drown on the water in her nose. So then the third thing was get a hammer or an axe and break the crock, and then they decided that if it might hit my head. So they tugged. Well, finally, my mother got me pulled out of the jug with my aunt holding
Oh, my
the bottom.
God, I can only imagine.
Well, it hurt. I couldn't open my mouth to eat for a couple of days, couldn't chew, couldn't much talk, because my jaw hurt so much on the side and my ears. And then again, like my mother did when my brother swung out over Crater Lake on a car door, she picked me up and beat the stuffing out of me. And my aunt again said, the same aunt, well, she would have been better off being a little jughead for her life. So I, on another occasion with my sister Donna, gave her a shove, and she hit a metal trunk. Since we lived in this small little garage, did not have cabinets, did not have shelves, we had a big metal trunk, and gave her a permanent little dimple for like 10 years.
Oh, so...
But all of these scars do disappear. As she grew up, aged in ages, it disappeared. Like I would cut my knee when I was out with the boat on the lake behind our home, and we would go out and hunt for duck eggs. And the ducks would lay the eggs, and they would roll down into the lake. So we would take a big pole and nail with 2 nails a soup can, and we would go out in the boat, and one would pull back we had a lot of water lilies and weeds, and find it, and we'd scoop it up. They were great. And
so you'd scoop the eggs?
we would catch the eggs,
and
or
you'd
gather the eggs.
Yeah, okay.
And I cut my knee doing that on the bow of the boat with a big split. I also, things happen to kids on farms. You just had a Band-Aid and you just lumped it.
Right.
We had a tree house right out by the lake from an old elderberry tree. And the tree house is where we had our Flash Gordon life.
Oh.
Flash Gordon was big then. It was a serial that was on every Friday night, I think 20 minutes. And I would be Dale, his little love on it.
All right, so for the people that might not know, tell us about Flash Gordon. Who was in it? What was it about?
Larry
and
Buster
watching.
Crabbe was
So
the
Buster
person.
Crabbe.
And it was
He
an
was
early space
Wasn't
movie.
he a silent film star, Buster Crabbe?
No,
Or
I
he
don't
was the
know about
talkies?
that.
Okay.
It was a
I'm
talkie.
talking about Buster Keaton. That's different.
No, it was a talkie.
All right, so Buster Crabbe was in this.
Yeah.
Flash Gordon. Now, was he a spaceman or what? Describe the story. Give me a description of.
Well, Flash Gordon lived in outer space,
Okay.
on another planet, so to
Okay.
speak.
And
I think there was Ming in it. I don't remember
And he was the
all of it
commander
now.
or the captain of the ship, or I mean.
I don't remember. I just know Flash Gordon was in outer space and he was there.
And you were playing his little assistant.
Yeah, and
little sidekick.
Dale, I forget what the lady's name
Oh,
was.
okay.
But it was great. But I jumped off of there and hit a tree and got my stomach all scratched and healed. So when we went to the theater, I have to mention, on Friday nights, since this was a big farming area in the Willamette Valley, we would have the screen would go blank, and there would come a sign out for everybody who were farmers raising turkeys, go home. We're going to have a terrific hail rainstorm.
Oh.
And they'd wait until everybody left to go home to their farms.
Oh, interesting.
Because turkeys, I'm so glad we didn't raise turkeys. To me, they were sort of a dumb animal. And when the weather would be like that, they would all bunch together in a corner and smother each other. So the farmers had to be real careful on these turkeys.
Well, but when they drowned, if they put their heads up and they drowned in
I
the
don't
rain,
know. I just know.
I thought that was the thing.
No, well, you've heard that too.
Well, so it's raining out, and they're warning all the turkey farmers
But
to go
they
home.
usually, if
and
they
why,
went,
and why are they doing that? What's going to happen if it rains on
but
the
if
turkeys?
they went to the theater at night, they would be in their big pens, in their big enclosure. They didn't often stay out at night.
So if they were outside in the rain, what would happen to the turkeys?
They often said they'd put their little necks up and drown, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Or they trample each other
But
or whatever.
I do know if they're inside, they hear thunder and lightning, they would gather together and kind of smother.
So they have to keep them apart or something.
Yeah, they had to go calm it down.
So day or night,
Yeah.
if it's raining out, you have to go calm
So they
down.
put a sign up there, farmers, there's going to be a storm, and they'd give you like a 10-minute intermission till all the farmers left.
So did people get up and leave?
Yes, they did, because that was a big thing going on then.
Wow.
I also did not like chickens. We didn't raise many, but we had a few. And for some reason, they seemed to have a calcium deficiency, and they started pecking on the legs of one and eating it up like little cannibals. I could not stand those chickens.
They eat each other?
Yeah, well, they'd get one paw and they'd all attack that one.
Ugh.
And I'd tell my mother, I can't go and feed them. I can't go. They're all little cannibals. So possibly they weren't being fed the right type of food.
Wow.
So it was okay. And being a farm girl, I never, ever, ever had to milk a cow. My brothers always did that.
So that was the boys'
I
job.
did not like the smell of the cow. So I wasn't too good of a farmer person.
I see. All right, here, Fran. So the next question is, if your 5-year-old self could talk with you now, what would you think the 5-year-old you would be most excited about from your life?
You go first on that, Michael.
Interesting question, huh? Well, let me see. When I was 5, I did normal things a 5-year-old kid did. I colored in coloring books. I watched cartoons on Saturday, right? I went outside to play. I do remember one show that I watched in particular. I guess you could say I was kind of fascinated with space and space travel and things like that. And there was a show called Lost in Space, which is just a ridiculous show about a family, the Robinsons, who got lost, couldn't find their way back, and they had this terrible Dr. Smith that was always causing trouble. They had Will Robinson always getting in trouble and befriending Dr. Smith and the robot, danger, danger, danger. And this show just fascinated me. I had a little robot, I think, that has battery powered and of the robot. It was kind of cool. It lit up and it talked, and so I don't know if it talked, but it did light up, and it moved around a little bit. So that was kind of cool for a kid. And then, of course, we did have a TV then, and what was new at that time was color TV.
Ours was black and white.
That's right. It was this old metal kind of a box, sort of a black lacquer kind of painted box with rabbit ears, and I remember just having to
primitive
turn it on for cartoons
Yeah.
and not have it work, and I give it a nice little slap on the side, and then lo and behold, it starts working. It was just the most ridiculous thing. And of course, Joe's TV service was right next door, so Joe Dugo next door would help all the people.
He was
with
a
their
TV
TVs.
man,
TV
yeah.
repairman. Yeah, so he was like a rocket scientist to me. He knew how to fix TVs, and so I would go to my neighbor's house. The Shermans over there, and they had a color TV. So every week or something when it came on, I don't remember when it was on. I think it was on once a week. I would go over there if I was lucky enough to watch it in color. If I was a good boy, you let me out to do that. So
And then later-
I guess one of the things I did later was I did a little stand-up routine at Zany's in
improv.
Chicago. It was stand up, and one of the things I said I was sort of a techno geek, like
Yeah.
a techno weenie kind of guy that was into technology, and of course I had to mention in front of all these people that one of my favorite shows was Lost in Space, and people that knew about that show watched it right along with me. But when you see it now, it's like, oh my God, this is just so ridiculous. But as a kid, it was a lot of fun. And now, these days, when I watch like the westerns that Mom likes to watch, I see like rocks and pebbles, and I think of the scenes that they use for Lost in Space. They're like oddly
artificial,
kind of similar.
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny. But anyway, one of the other things I remember is growing up so that I could see over my chest of drawers in my room. I think I had one wall that had these eagles on it. We were big on wallpaper, and one wall had like paneling on it. I think in my room is what we did, and it might have been before Vince was born because there's 5 years between us. But I remember standing in front of those chest of drawers, and and it was like it maybe 10 or 12 inches above my head, and I'm looking at it going, I'm never going to be that tall to see over the dresser. I'm never going to be able to look in the mirror without jumping on the bed. How am I ever going to grow tall? I want to be tall. And then the next year I sit there and I'm 6 inches away, and then my head's right at the top, and I'm slowly growing taller. And I remembered measuring that on my chest of drawers there in my room, and then finally I was tall enough. I was 10 years old at that point before we moved to the other house. But I think as a little kid of 5 years old, I think it would be pretty cool to know that I'm actually the tallest person in our family at 5'10", which is sort of, maybe average height these days. But, with regular shoes, I guess I'm 6 feet. I always thought that I would be 6 feet, and I always wanted to be 6 feet. Your brothers are 6 feet and taller.
My father was.
Yeah, your father, your mother, I don't know. She's close to 6.
My
She's
mother
like
was
5'10".
tall. I have a sister that was tall.
Yeah, so I always wanted to be taller, and lo and behold, I turned out to be the tallest one in our family. But it's all relative. My family's relatively short. Mom's 5'1", Lisa's 5'1.5". Linda's maybe 5'3", 5'4". Lori was taller, I think maybe 5'7". Vince is like 5'8".
Yeah.
And here I am at 5'10". I'm a giant. Well, not really. But I think as a 5-year-old, that would be cool to think that, wow, you're going to grow up to be the tallest in the family. And that was 7 people. So that's pretty cool. All right, Mom.
Well,
So what about you?
My part of answering that question, when I think back to 5 years of age, I used to run around with a dog. We always had a dog outside, little farm kid running around, or playing with dolls and having little babies and being a little mother playing house. So I think what this 5-year-old would be surprised about was that later we had a dog. Well, my 5-year-old self then would have been surprised to see that our family dog was a corgi that was from the house away in England, and we won prizes with her and papers and went to Kalamazoo, Michigan to get her.
Yeah.
Where mine were just sort of farm dogs. And secondly, I did have 5 kids. I had the little plain house. I had 5 babies of my own.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's what the 5-year-old would be impressed.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. All right, Mom, let's get one more in here. If you have an interest in sports, what professional sport do you think would be made much better if the players were required to drink alcohol throughout the game? Well, it's just kind of a silly question to begin with, but I'm thinking, how about skydiving?
Oh, yeah, and you land like a pancake.
Or maybe billiards, so they can kind of relax when they, maybe they could do a better
cue
shot.
Through the table.
Or bowling. No, that would be dangerous. Well,
Yeah.
what about, what do you think, Mom?
Well, first of all, I don't think you should be drinking playing any sport.
Okay.
The only thing I could see is this. You might take one that's the most boring to you and liven it up. And I think curling is boring.
How about like log rolling? That would be fun if they're drunk.
Oh, yeah, in
that's
the water
not
all the
professional,
time.
is it? Well, I don't know. All right.
I don't know.
So we're up in the air on that one, folks. Well, that's it for now, folks. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Mike and Fran.
Goodbye. Mask up. Keep warm. See you next week. Signing off, Mike and Fran.